Good morning. Welcome, everyone. I want to call to order the meeting of the California Education Learning Lab's 2021 Selection Committee. I'm Lark Park. I'm director of the Learning Lab, and I'll be serving as the moderator for today's meeting. With me are Marisa Chung and Rob Charette, who are both program development officers for the Learning Lab. So let's call the roll for the selection committee members. Please indicate here or present. Bannon. Okay, Steve will be joining us later. Bowers. Kube.
Present.
Mack. Narayanan.
Present.
Rahman.
Present.
Stoppel.
I'm here.
Okay, great. So thank you for being here. During this open session of the selection committee, we will provide an overview of the Learning Lab and the Grand Challenge. I'll ask our program development officers to briefly introduce themselves. I'll ask the selection committee members to introduce themselves, their background, and their work in STEM. We'll go over roles and responsibilities, what's happening during the day, and then what next steps are at the end of the day. At the end of this morning's open session, I'll open public comment and see if there's anybody from the public who would like to make a comment. And we will also be monitoring the Q&A if there are any questions or comments there. So first of all, I'd like to start by thanking all of the selection committee members here for joining us today and their service to the California Education Learning Lab. We're so grateful that you're not just giving us your time today, but that you've spent dozens of hours reviewing the submitted proposals. As many of you know, the California Education Learning Lab is a state-funded program housed in the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, newly administered in partnership with the Foundation for California Community Colleges. We've been operating for about 2.5 years. We're funded as an annual grant program that has the express goal of improving learning outcomes and closing the gaps in public higher education, namely the California Community Colleges, the CSU, and the UC system. Most of our grant funding goes directly to faculty-led projects, which are required to be intersegmental in nature, so that faculty across the CSUs, UCs, and community colleges might have the broadest impact for California students. To date, we've committed about $18.5 million in funding to 30 projects across the 3 systems of public higher education. You can find out more about our funded projects, our grant program, and related resources on our website, calearninglab.org. So as you know, the Learning Lab released its most recent RFP called Learning Lab Grand Challenge, Overcoming the Calculus Barrier to STEM Success. We released this in November. The Grand Challenge was developed in consultation with Learning Lab's Advisory Council over the summer and fall with the goal of creating a grant opportunity where funded projects could ultimately impact STEM completion rates, especially for historically marginalized populations. While Learning Lab has issued several types of grant opportunities, this is the first one we've put out as a Grand Challenge. Through this Grand Challenge, we invited faculty teams from California's public higher education institutions to reconceptualize the role of and approach to calculus in a student's first year STEM introductory STEM experience. Our intention is to award up to 5 grants of approximately $1 million to $1.5 million over 3 years to support new, innovative ways to teach calculus or reimagine the role of calculus in STEM majors where calculus is a prerequisite. 5 awarded teams will then join together and form the Grand Challenge cohort, through which they will share their project's ideas, their approaches, findings, data, outcomes over the 3-year grant period. And then grounded in their experiences, these teams will then collaboratively produce, by the end of the grant period, recommendations for model first-year STEM curricula with effective pedagogical approaches and faculty development components built in. Related to this competition, we also put out a call for faculty teams to apply to be the Grand Challenge cohort facilitator. one coordinating institution or project team will be selected to receive $500,000 over 3 years to foster collaboration among the Grand Challenge project teams and serve as that cohort facilitator. The response to this Grand Challenge has been robust. About 26 project teams filed a statement of intent between the two opportunities. 20 project teams submitted an application for these two opportunities combined. For the Grand Challenge, we had 14 campuses and colleges apply to be a host institution. And within those 14 projects, an additional 31 partner institutions are represented. In total, 45 institutions are represented in the 14 projects. And in terms of unique institutions, there are 37 across the state, including the UC Office of the President. So with these 37 unique institutions, all areas of the state are represented, and partner disciplines in physics, engineering, biology, chemistry, computer, and data science, they're also well represented. In terms of the cohort facilitator opportunity, we had 6 applications total, including 2 from community colleges, 2 from CSU, and 2 from UC. So with that, I'll go to introductions. I'll ask the Learning Lab staff, Marisa and Rob, to introduce themselves first, and then we'll go to the selection committee member introductions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marisa Chung, Program Development Officer. I joined the Learning Lab with several years of experience in grant writing, grant making, and community organizing. Just prior, I worked as a senior grant specialist for the Foundation for California Community Colleges. It's nice to meet everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Rob Charette, Marisa's counterpart as a Program Development Officer at the Learning Lab. And prior to joining the Learning Lab was with the CSU Chancellor's Office. Pleasure to see everyone this morning.
Great, now let's move to selection committee member introductions. We'll go in reverse alphabetical order by last name. And if you could just spend 2 minutes introducing yourself, your background, and your work in STEM, that would be great for our audience. So Jeff Stoppel, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Jeff Stoppel. I'm a professor in the mathematics department at UC Santa Barbara. I've been here since 1987, more or less my whole career. My research is actually analytic number theory. I'm a pure mathematician guy. So that's very broadly using the tools of calculus to study prime numbers and how they're distributed amongst all the integers. More recently, I've developed sort of a second research interest on the mathematical side of origami. There's a lot of interesting questions mathematically about what you can and can't do with a piece of paper that are quite remarkable that they're still open after so many years. The way I got into this, I've been in a number of administrative roles in recent years. Chair of my department. I served on our Committee on Academic Personnel, which evaluates faculty for promotion and tenure and things like that. I was an associate dean for the UC Education Abroad program system-wide. I was on UCSB's undergraduate council, which on the academic side oversees all the undergraduate programs. And then later on became interim dean of our College of Letters and Science, and eventually was encouraged to apply to be dean as well. And Letters and Science is our largest college on campus, which is about 93% of all the students are in that. So from that point, the Associate Vice Chancellor role adds on to that things like undergraduate research, study abroad, instructional development. And so that gives me my current role. I think that's all.
Okay, thanks very much. Ganesh.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ganeshrahman, the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Research at the California State University Chancellor's Office. By training, I'm a mechanical and aerospace engineer. I started my career at NASA. I worked there for 14 years. And then I transitioned to academia. I was at the Illinois Institute of Technology, where I was a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering, also served as associate chair for aerospace engineering, associate dean, and deputy vice provost. About 5 years ago, I came to the California State University Chancellor's Office to head research at the system level. So being at the Chancellor's Office, it is very clear what some of the hurdles are for underserved students in California, and also the need to preserve the rigor of education in certain disciplines, STEM disciplines, while providing essentially creating graduates who are going to be relevantly trained for the workforce. So I also oversee the 10 multi-campus consortia for the California State University, and one of them is STEMnet, which connects all 23 campuses in STEM education and research. So I'm very acutely aware of not only what the needs are for underserved students, as well as what are some of the possibilities. So thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. Satya?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Satina Raina. I'm a professor of computer science at CSU Monterey Bay. I've been at CSUMB since 2007. Before that, I was in the industry as well. I worked for Panasonic Research Lab in Princeton for about 8 years, and I had a few software engineering jobs before that. In the last 10 years, I've primarily focused on what you could call like broadening participation in computing, bringing more underrepresented students into computing, preparing them, and connecting them to opportunities in the tech industry. The flagship effort of the work we have been doing is we have this cohort-based bachelor's degree programs. We have a Hartnell College CSU Monterey Bay partnership where students graduate in 3 years with a computer science degree. And we also have a similar program for incoming freshmen at CSU Monterey Bay. We've learned a lot in terms of like how to kind of take students from where they are to where they need to be so that they can be competitive for these opportunities in the tech industry. And so like lately we are trying to see how we can scale this so that we can serve students from across the state and not only in these two institutions. We have an effort starting right now to be able to serve more kids across the state. And thank you to Learning Lab team for inviting me. This has been interesting to read the proposals, and thank you. It's been a learning experience for me.
Thank you, Satya. Kathy?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kathy Kube. I teach math and statistics at College of the Canyons and have worked there since 2000. I've been involved for many years with the MESA program as a faculty sponsor, and then I transitioned over to the California Acceleration Project and have been involved with professional development for math faculty. Additionally, I coordinate professional development opportunities for mathematics faculty who wish to teach introductory statistics at the community college level.
Thank you, Kathy. Janet?
Hi, my name is Janet Bowers. I recently retired from San Diego State University after 25 years in the math department. For the past 7 of those years, I served on the Calculus Reform Committee, which was a department-wide effort to reform our calculus series from pre-calculus through Calc 2. This included organizational efforts, becoming coordinators and choosing the same textbook, professional development efforts and initiatives, and the establishment of the Math Learning Center, which I founded and directed. I also continue to be the PI for the SDSU of a large NSF collaborative grant that includes 12 institutions around the country. And together we seek to enhance the teaching and learning of calculus by consulting with partner disciplines to modify curricula to provide opportunities for students to learn the skills that they really will need in successive classes. For example, do you use technology? Do you focus on tables? My specific role was to redefine the pre-calculus curriculum and pedagogy at SDSU, but I've been in many, many conversations about the need to reform calculus writ large around the country, in particular for underrepresented populations. I've been specifically interested lately in culturally responsive teaching and the importance of role models.
Great, thank you so much. I don't see Kelly Mack or Steve Bannon in yet, so I'll go to the overview of the day and roles and responsibilities. So for the rest of this open session, we'll go over those two things before we turn it over to check to see if whether any of our public members of the public who are attending have any public comment. Most of the meeting today will take place in closed session under the deliberation exemption allowed by statute. Closed session will begin right after public comment and is open only to selection committee members and staff. Selection committee members will deliberate all of the submitted concept proposals. After deliberation is complete, we will reconvene in open session announcing how many projects are being recommended for the next stage. Although our agenda notes that the report of actions is scheduled for 5:30, please note that this is just an estimated time only, and it may be either before or after this time that we reconvene open session briefly to report out the number of recommended projects only. And then our plan is to communicate with all applicant teams on Friday, March 19th before the close of business. And for anybody who wants to come back into open session at the end of the day, it will be the same webinar invitation that you can enter through. Statute requires the convening of an expert selection committee to score and recommend proposals to the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. We impaneled this particular selection committee because of the depth and breadth of their experience in mathematics, specifically calculus instruction, and related STEM partner disciplines. We also took into consideration their expertise in diversity, equity, and inclusion for students, the science of human learning, and their experience in the CSU, community college, and UC systems. Again, we're very grateful to have convened such an illustrious panel. The role of the selection committee member is to provide full, fair, impartial, and independent consideration of the proposals they've been asked to review, as stated in the conflict of interest acknowledgement and the statement of impartial evaluation that each member signed. Selection committee members that have an identified conflict will recuse themselves from the deliberation on that specific proposal. And even if a member does not have an actual conflict, members may recuse themselves if they feel there is a sufficient appearance of conflict. As noted in the RFP, this is a two-stage review process. We ask selection committee members to provide both a qualitative evaluation and numeric scoring according to the published rubric on our website. Today, the selection committee will focus on discussing the merits of the 14 Grand Challenge project applications and the 6 cohort facilitator applications. The selection committee is being asked to move a subset of the applicants forward to the next stage, but it's within the discretion of the committee to determine the number of projects to move forward. And finally, we have asked them in their recommendations to consider geographic, disciplinary, and institutional diversity as per legislative intent and Learning Labs practice. I do see selection committee member Steve Bannon has joined us. So Steve, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself for a minute, that would be great.
Sure. Hello, everyone. So my name is Steve Bannon, and I'm currently a lecturer in psychology, or I should say in the psychology department at UCLA. I actually teach mathematics courses because I have background as a mathematician. And before joining UCLA last year, I worked for several years at Cornell, where I was in charge of redesigning some lower level math courses, in particular calculus courses, to infuse active learning and make sure that active learning would become a consistent way of teaching these courses. And maybe another thing was, before Cornell, I also worked at the University of Geneva in Switzerland, where part of my work was in the teaching center. And as a faculty developer, I was helping faculty members set up innovative projects in teaching. And I was also reviewing some internal grants that we had on innovative teaching, introducing active learning, all these kind of things.
Thank you so much, Steve. So at the end of today's meeting, the recommendations of the selection committee will go to the director of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, who is responsible for approving these recommendations, as well as the final recommendations for award at the end of May. For this stage, we'll contact all grant teams by close of business on Friday, March 19th, to let you all know if their application is moving to this next stage. We'll provide feedback to all applicant teams, as well as post additional instructions for the full proposal, the budget template, the full proposal rubric, and the cohort facilitator follow-up questionnaire, and any other pertinent information. For applicants who are not moving forward, we'll provide more detailed feedback by the end of the following week, so by March 26th to your teams as well. So per Learning Lab rules, selection committee members have been asked to treat the entire review process as confidential. So from start to finish to the end of May. And selection committee members for the duration of this process must observe the requirements of the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. My participation will be limited to serving as the moderator for the meeting, keeping time, addressing questions, and making sure all committee members have a chance to speak. Both Rob and Marisa are here to answer any questions about the process, take notes during the meeting, and provide any support needed by the selection committee members during the process. So if we don't have any questions or comments from the selection committee members, I will open up public comment and see if any members of the public who've joined us wish to make a comment during this open meeting. So if you would like to make a comment, I believe you can either raise your hand or use the Q&A to indicate your comment, and we can read your comment out loud, or we can just allow you to talk if you raise your hand. And if you do want to make a public comment, please state your name and your institutional affiliation. So I'll just give a minute to see if there's anybody who would like to make a comment. Okay, I see Donna Smith. I'm going to press allow to talk, and you can, again, state your name and your institutional affiliation.
Good morning, this is Donna Smith. I'm from Sierra College. I wanted to ask about the open session where you will be sharing, but you're not quite sure of the time. So will we get an alert to know that we can come back, or will we just try to come back like between 4:30, 5:30? What would be the best way for us to come back to the open session since you're unsure of what time you'll be able to make a decision?
Thank you for the question, Donna. Maybe what I can do is ask Marisa or Rob to take note of the attendees who joined us, and what we can do is email all of you and give you maybe a 5-minute warning that we'll go back into open session. So if you could just look out for your email alerts, that would be great. And we will post, though, the recording of both open sessions on our website as well. So, but that probably won't happen until this evening.
Hey, Lark, I was wondering if I can make one recommendation that might help me and Marisa. If you could send an email to info@calearninglab.org, that way we'll have your email address in our email account and can email you before the meeting starts. So again, that's info@calearninglab.org.
Thank you for that suggestion, Rob. Much easier. Okay, well, if anybody else has a comment, please raise your hand or use the Q&A to indicate your comment. I do see that selection committee member Kelly Mack has joined us, so I will ask Kelly if she can do a brief introduction of herself.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kelly Mack. My apologies for being late. I'm trying to do West Coast time from the East Coast and the hour change and everything else in between. So I'm very, very sorry for joining you this late. I am the Vice President for Undergraduate STEM Education at the Association of American Colleges and Universities. And I was a faculty of biology for about 20 years before arriving at AAC&U. I taught biology, physiology. My native discipline is physiology. I also have a lot of experience in directing programs, particularly those that address the academic and career advancement needs of marginalized students, and in my work now, marginalized faculty as well. So thank you. Again, my apologies. I'm very happy to join you all today.
Thank you so much, Kelly. So with that, I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Lark, we have one question in the Q&A. If you could just answer quickly, it's a quick one. It says, how many selection committees are there, or selection committee members are there?
Thank you, Rob, for pointing that out. There are 7 selection committee members, and I believe they are all present at this point. And we do have them on our website, calearninglab.org, in the grant section. Rob, please correct me if I'm wrong. In the grant section, there is a page called the Grand Challenge. And if you scroll to the bottom, all of their bios are available for your review. Okay, thank you so much, Rob, for putting it in the chat. Any other comments or questions from our audience? Okay, with that, this concludes the morning's open session today. And again, as Rob pointed out, if you would like to receive notification, a 5-minute lead time of when we will be reporting out the number of applications moving forward today, please send an email to info@calearninglab.org. And if you have any other questions, please use that email address to communicate your question. So with that, we will adjourn this morning's open session, and we will reconvene in closed session in a couple minutes with just the selection committee members and Learning Lab staff. So thank you all for your interest, and we will perhaps see you at the end of the day. Thanks so much. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us yet again, if you've joined us. We wanted to report out the results in terms of the number of recommendations being proposed to move forward. The selection committee has decided to recommend 9 Grand Challenge proposals and 3 cohort facilitator proposals to move to the next stage. The final list will be approved by the Director of the Governor's Office of Planning and Research. We will contact all applicants by 5 p.m. on Friday, March 19th, close of business. And in terms of the project teams who are recommended to move forward, we will provide additional instructions, feedback from the selection committee, the budget template, the full proposal rubric, and the cohort facilitator follow-up questionnaire. For project teams not advancing to the next stage, we'll compile and convey summary feedback by the end of the following week. We want to thank all of the applicants for taking time to put forward an application for the Grand Challenge and cohort facilitator opportunities. We had many strong proposals, and while we are not able to move everyone forward, we are really quite thrilled to see that so many faculty are motivated to address equity gaps in STEM education, focusing on this particular challenge. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@calearninglab.org or look for information on our website at calearninglab.org. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.